Welcome everyone to Atheism 101. I'm your favorite bard, Quark the Bard, and today we're getting up close and personal with someone who claims to be a former atheist, produced a video about how to engage with atheists, but also think that Hitchens' razor is self-refuting. By way of a quick introduction via a YouTube short of his, here's what you're in for.
The only way to be correct about anything is to agree with God. To disagree with God is to be wrong by definition.
He's someone I recently engaged with on a Twitter live space before being reminded of an awful truth. He blocked me. This was back in February, when Nurse Ag and her minions were reporting me en masse because I hurt her feelings by turning her argument into a musical parody. And since blocking me, Darwin to Jesus, or DDJ, has been pretty fucking busy. I mean, nearly 10,000 posts in 4 months? Holy shit, dude, does God allow you to have any other hobbies? Anyways, here's how it went down. A friend of mine who goes by the handle Make Lying Wrong Again was hosting a no-holds-barred Twitter space to debate various topics. DDJ came on board to claim that Hitchens' razor was self-refuting. For a quick recap, Hitchens' razor states that what can be asserted without evidence can also be dismissed without evidence. Simple enough. If you make a claim like you own a goose who shits gold nuggets, but provide no goose and no nuggets, then I can happily dismiss your claim without further investigation, as your assertion was presented without evidence. Yet somehow this is a self-refuting claim, according to the notorious DDJ. Here was his argument.
Well, so here are my thoughts on Hitchens' razor. I do think ultimately it is self-defeating because it says if you're making a claim, you have to provide evidence for it. And that is a claim. It's a statement about the way that something is. So it is a claim in and of itself.
So because Hitchens' razor is itself a claim, that is self-defeating? In other words, you can't make claims about how to accept claims because, what, that's too many claims? Can't make a claim about a claim? Is that like triple stamping a double stamp?
You can't triple stamp a double stamp! You can't triple stamp a double stamp, Lord! You can't triple stamp a double stamp! Lord!
But I digress. He continued to keep digging.
So the only way it wouldn't be self-defeating is if there was evidence that supported that it was, in fact, true. And I haven't seen any evidence that supports that it is true. It's kind of more of a tautology.
He hasn't seen evidence that Hitchens' razor is true? Okay, that opens a whole host of Dunning-Kruger level problems, but I'll try to stick to just the top two. First of all, it's not a true-false statement. Hitchens didn't say that if you present an assertion without evidence, that claim is false, simply that you are free to dismiss it without consideration as no evidence has been demonstrated to back it up. That's not a true-false statement, it's a word of advice. But if Hitchens' razor is false, as DDJ says, then what he's suggesting is that one can or even should accept an assertion without evidence. And yeah, you are certainly welcome to accept a claim without evidence. In fact, it's what keeps those poor Nigerian princes in business. But is it a good idea to accept a claim without evidence? Hitchens' razor suggests no, but DDJ has a better idea.
It's kind of more of a tautology. It's something that people believe and they think that it should be the case or whatever. But it's very hard for me to see how it actually just is the case and you could support it with some kind of evidence, especially the type of evidence that atheists demand, which tends to be empirical evidence.
Ironically, Duchess here is asking for evidence. So he's contradicting not only his declaration that Hitchens' razor is self-refuting, but his own dogma. More on that later. DDJ says that which can be asserted without evidence can be dismissed without evidence is a claim. It's not. It's a razor. The clue is right there in the title. And in philosophy, a razor is a principle or rule of thumb that allows one to eliminate or shave off unlikely explanations for a phenomenon or avoid unnecessary action. Like I said earlier, it's a good bit of advice. And saying that advice is false is like claiming atheism is false. Wrong adjective, wrong ballpark, wrong everything.
Wrong, 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 wrong. Wrong, 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 wrong. You're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong.
let's say that Hitchens razor is a claim. Do I have evidence to support it?
Certainly.
If someone calls your phone and claims that you owe them $5,000 and you need to pay them right now by going to Walmart and buying a gift card and giving them the number over the phone, if you believe that claim without evidence, you're out somewhere between $5,000 and literally all of your money. So assuming your goal is to not be swindled by Nigerian prince scammers or people who somehow magically commune telepathically with the creator of the universe, Hitchens razor is useful. Now, we can discuss the veracity of my argument, but by merely presenting evidence means that Hitchens razor no longer applies, as I backed up my claim with evidence. We can measure statistically how much money goes to scam artists annually because people accepted ridiculous claims without evidence. Billions of dollars are lost annually to social media scams, and that's not counting the ones that have tax-exempt status. Explain how that's self-refuting, DDJ.
DJ. You ever notice how weird that sounds? DJ.
But wait! There's more!
He wasn't done digging.
I do think that if you're trying to convince somebody of your position, you should try to give them actual compelling evidence. If you think that they're open-minded and interested in actually hearing a case, then yes, of course you should not just say, well, this is true, this is the case, and just leave it there. You should provide evidence. You should have those things.
So, if you're trying to convince someone of a claim, you should give them evidence. Curious how we can agree on that, but not Hitchens razor, which also puts a premium on evidence. But yes, to convince someone, you should provide evidence. But guess what? It doesn't have to be someone who's open-minded or your friend or someone who's even going to argue honestly. You can dishonestly argue all day long that the world is flat, snakes can talk, or that the sum total of civilization was brought about through biblical incest. And that's fine by me, because those arguments have no evidence to back them up, and I have plenty of evidence to the contrary. No wonder DDJ likes the idea of presenting evidence to bolster your argument, but disagrees with the idea that a claim can be dismissed if it's presented without evidence. That would kind of shatter everything religion has going for it. DDJ continued.
The way that Hitchens razor is used, it's often used by people who want to say, give me evidence, and then they just throw out all of your evidence as you're giving it to them because they don't actually care about the evidence. So that's why I point out that it is ultimately self-refuting, because it's used by people who are acting in bad faith. So
if someone isn't accepting your evidence because it's dog shit evidence that doesn't stand up to scrutiny, that's an entirely different argument. But you're saying Hitchens razor is self-refuting because some people won't accept the evidence you provide and utilize Hitchens razor in bad faith? Interesting concept. Something can be self-refuting if its adherents use it in bad faith. So, let's say, if I were in a space with a Christian who used bad faith arguments, then fled the conversation, that would refute Christianity, right? Because a representative of that dogma used a Christian argument in bad faith and then fucked off? Fortunately, I was in the room to ask about it.
I just wanted to ask Darwin, are you refuting that? Are you saying that you should be allowed to present a claim without evidence and it should be accepted?
Now, from what I can tell, that was a reasonable question. And unbeknownst to me, DDJ made a video about how exactly a Christian apologist should debate atheists. Let's look at his criteria on how to properly engage.
to identify the atheist not worth talking to, look for red flags like loaded questions, demands for proof, insults, reliance on rhetoric and sophistry, or attempts to control the conversation.
Leaving aside the fact that he has a problem when people ask him for proof, as far as I can tell, my question should not have triggered any of these red flags. The question wasn't loaded. It wasn't even a demand for proof. I merely asked him if he thought people should accept a claim without evidence. I didn't call him a cunt-faced twat or an undescended testicle, and I used no rhetoric or sophistry. And there was no attempt to control the conversation. I simply asked a direct, straightforward question to clarify whether DDJ thought that accepting a claim without evidence was a good idea. Now it's time to play.
What will the question.
That's right, after receiving a direct question that should have a pretty simple answer, will our Christian guest A. Answer the question, B. Deflect, C. Proselytize, or D. Run away? Let's find out.
Are you saying that you should be allowed to present a claim without evidence and it should be accepted?
I don't think you got called on as a speaker, Kurok, and you know that you are blocked by me, so we're not interacting. And if you try to talk to me again, I'll just leave the space. So,
Well, that's up to you. I was just trying to, piggyback on his point because I thought it was a good point, and I was curious what your thoughts were on Hitchens' razor.
yeah, I think I've made myself clear.
Anyway.
And after that, he fucked right off. So if you chose option D, you were correct. I guess that makes me the big, bad, black hole atheist from his video. Now, I have been known to suck in everything around me, but that's only under specific circumstances, and light may not escape, but sound certainly does. I've noticed this with the Christian meme lord trolls of the internet. The second you get them off of a bumper sticker slogan and they have to make an actual argument, they end up proving that they can't really process anything more nuanced than a fucking meme. That's why they stick to their medium. The second they have to provide evidence for their claim, they start splitting hairs on what evidence is and how atheists are biased because they require evidence, all delivered in a self-contradictory word salad. But that was an off-the-cuff conversation. Plenty of people piss themselves and run away while in the presence of a silver-tongued, cunning linguist such as your favorite bard. Let's see what Precious can come up with when he really sets his mind to it and takes the time to say exactly what he wants to say. I'm sure he won't contradict himself or sound fucking ridiculous.
Rule number 3. Don't expect them to change their mind. Atheists are often the most stubborn people you can witness to. They reject God because they think they are God, so the idea that you might be right and they are wrong is not even a possibility to 99.99999% of them.
Okay, first of all, eat shit, kid. Secondly, your claim that I reject God because I think I am God, well, I'm going to need you to quote a source on that and provide some evidence. Oh shit, if Hitchens' razor is self-refuting, as DDJ says, that means I have to accept his claim without evidence. But DDJ just said...
I do think that if you're trying to convince somebody of your position, you should try to give them actual compelling evidence.
So, if you want to convince someone of something, offer them evidence. Got it. Okay, again, that was the off-the-cuff remark. Let's look at the prepared statement from YouTube.
Rule number 4. Do not give evidence.
Oh, shit.
This rule will surprise many Christians, but I mean it. Atheists don't care about evidence. They only ask for it to throw it back in your face and claim it's not evidence.
Now this is starting to make sense. DDJ doesn't like Hitchens' razor because it dismisses his claim of God does the real since he can't provide evidence. And throwing an ancient holy book at someone and posting 1,000 memes a day doesn't add up to evidence. So no wonder he's going through a confusing time where he suggests offering evidence, yet at the same time flatly states that offering evidence is useless.
Only give evidence to an atheist if they're your friend, you've established mutual respect, and you're in a private conversation.
Your God is so weak that it can't withstand scrutiny from someone who isn't your friend? Is that what Jesus said in the Great Commission?
Go out and make disciples of just your friends that have a mutual respect for you and enjoy a nice, private conversation.
Ugh.
Puny God.
Ultimately, evidence isn't going to change anyone's mind because atheism is about rebellion, not evidence.
Evidence isn't going to change anyone's mind? Seriously? Speak for yourself. I used to just think you were a religious zealot. Now I'm seeing evidence that you're a really dumb religious zealot. Consider my mind changed. And if evidence doesn't change your mind, well, that tracks for Christians. Which reminds me, I also hear evidence. And my bardic ears have a talent for voices. I could be off the mark, but when comparing DDJ's voice with this kid who makes similar arguments against Hitchens' razor...
Now, it's often thought that if you are rejecting a claim, you don't have the burden of proof because you're not actually making a claim. However, rejecting a claim is still making a claim because you are negating the claim. That's making a claim to its negation. If I make the claim A, I am making the negation of the claim non-A. And if I claim non-A, I am making a negation of the claim A. All claims require rejecting their opposites, and so just because you're rejecting something doesn't mean you aren't making a claim.
First of all, that's exactly what it means. I can reject a claim due to lack of evidence without making a claim myself because I'm not saying that the opposite of your claim is true. I'm simply rejecting your claim. Anyway, that's it. My point in showing that clip was, besides that similarly dumb argument, that kid's voice is similar to DDJ's. I'm not saying they're the same person, just that their voices are pitched with a similar timbre. I only bring that up because, just looking at this kid, I'm going to say maybe late teens, I guess? Anyhoozle, the point is, between this kid's voice and lack of coherent argument, Zenjamin here and DDJ could have been classmates. What I'm trying to say is DDJ sounds like he's only 2 weeks past his voice not cracking anymore. Even if I'm being charitable, let's say DDJ is in his early to maybe mid-20s. That would mean his balls dropping were a far more recent life event than any other significant development apart from his walk with Jesus. Professor Plink had a thorough takedown of DDJ's video point by point, so if you want a breakdown of all of DDJ's ridiculousness, be sure to check that out. As for me, all I know is this kid is a meme lord who makes absurd videos with ridiculous claims, then goes online into live spaces to contradict himself. Mission accomplished, soldier. You've successfully convinced me that your God can't possibly exist because any God that would trust you with secret knowledge of the divine is a fucking moron. And it's a real pity that you back away from discussions like this because iron sharpens iron and all that. What are you made of, kid? And you're going to claim that Hitchens' razor is self-refuting while you yourself suggest that providing evidence is a good thing, and yet instruct your fellow apologists that if they want to convince someone of your deity, they should not provide evidence. The only thing self-refuting here, champ, is you. Better luck next time, sport. Until then, I'm your favorite bard, Korak the Bard, singing off with... This is the best that God has to offer.